everyone. Welcome to the Spiritual Underground podcast. As always, my name is Dan Reeves. I am in 12 step recovery, which is the foundation of what the Spiritual Underground podcast is. Most of the time, if you're just coming across this podcast, that's mostly what we talk about. But I have guests that come in that fill in different areas, and uh, and sometimes I like to chalk it up and I file it as there's a quality in 12 step recovery says you must continue to enlarge your spiritual life. And when I say that, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the spirit and the soul that lives inside of me. I must take care of it. I must do things that help it. I must feed it. And then like my guest tonight, I think comes in from a little bit different angle of that because I'm big on what I bring into my body, whether if it's what I eat, what I digest through my eyes and ears, what I drink, all that is playing a part in how I'm taking care of Dan and the quality of life that I'm going to have. I'm big on clean eating. I'm not crazy on it, but I'm big on it, and I try to keep the high fructose corn syrups and any other kind of like chemicals and stuff out of my life as best as I can. And it's Cydian
That's right.
uh, is going to talk about water tonight. And I don't know exactly what he's bringing, but I'm interested in hearing about it. And then we just had a little short conversation about how I don't drink the tap water here. The tap water at my house tastes like chlorine.
Yeah.
Tastes like pool water.
Yeah.
So how's it going tonight? It looks like you're doing pretty good.
I'm doing great.
And you're coming to us from Seattle, Washington.
Yep. That's right.
Is that where you've come from? Is that your home, or is that your where you've lived all your life? Or I like to
Yeah,
always know a little bit about where people like the
yeah.
little bit origin story, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was born in California, but Riverside specifically.
Mm.
And then my parents brought me here when I was 8.
Ah,
So, and I'm 48 now. So I've been here 40 years.
awesome. Well, good. And that's pretty much lived there most the majority of your life. You probably remember a little bit before then, but
Very little. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, good deal.
Yeah.
So tell me, what you up to? What's your
Well, we gotta basically, I've been doing water treatment only for 6 years in the water treatment industry. I'm kind of a babe, but baby, I guess. And the uh, the funny thing is, I got into it from property management. Um, I I I was a mediator for some of my life, and then I went from that into property management. I did property management off and on for 20 years.
hmm,
And one time I had a guy come to me. It's happened more than once, but there's one that's really memorable. It came to come to me, a tenant, and he showed me the water coming out of his tap, and it was brown and smelled like rotten eggs. I know now what that means, but back then that just blew my mind. And so I took it to the owner, and the owner said, "Well, go get it tested." I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Turns out that's really easy to get your water tested. So I went and got it tested, a full spectrum test, and the results were this water is all within the legal limit. I was like, what? How the heck is that possible? So I looked at the EPA website, and I didn't do this on my own. I actually went and talked to Chris Pelton, who started Pure Water Northwest, which is the company I now am a co-owner of. And he explained to me that the EPA sets two standards for drinking water. One is a maximum contaminant level, which is the legal level, and the other is the maximum contaminant level goal, which is the health level. So the MCL, the legal level, is set as close to the MCLG, the health level, as can be while keeping cost and other factors into consideration. That's what it says on the EPA website. So if you think about what that means, there's a lot of places out there that are above the health level but below the legal level. And so when I had that water, I had to like negotiate with the or mediate with the owner, and say, look, you're going to lose the tenant. If you, I know you don't legally have to fix it, but you're like, you're going to not be able to get a tenant in there. So he ended up fixing it, but that started me on my journey. After that, my daughter's had eczema on her skin from any amount of hardness in the water. And Chris helped me with that too, made me realize that hardness can sometimes get into skin pores and actually cause eczema reactions. So you got the skin for some people, the hair for something, and then what you drink can, it's, it is all person dependent, honestly, except for at extreme levels of toxins. Most people are going to have resistance to what's in the water, or they're going to be affected by it. And how clean you want to be is really up to you. But the first step, as I've learned over the last 6 years, the first step is testing. That makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. I also, we have extremely hard water here.
Yeah,
And all my life we've had a water softener. I go down there and for whatever it really does or doesn't do, I don't really know. I can tell when it's not operating.
yeah,
I can tell the difference. And I also know that I do handyman work. So I see like on places that don't have water softeners, I see that build up on the aerators and faucets and how it cruds up the valves. Matter of
that's
fact,
right.
I just got off the phone with a sponsee of mine that's got a water issue in his house and he can't shut off the main in his house.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
before the
real.
water softener. The water softener's after that valve. That valve is not getting any benefit of the water softener he
That's
has
right.
in his house. And I'm pretty sure the valve stem broke tonight.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's going to be a thing. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So what you said, what that is, that water smelled like rotten eggs and that you
uh
said
yeah, rotten eggs means hydrogen sulfide gas. So hydrogen sulfide gas is going to come from some sort of biological breakdown. You got tree trunks that are dead in an aquifer that can give a rotten egg smell. You got iron bacteria or sulfate forming bacteria that has a biofilm that can give a rotten egg smell. So yeah, hydrogen sulfide gas really not that dangerous for a person.
hmm,
And that person that in that person particular, they had iron bacteria, and hydrogen sulfide. Didn't have much else. Didn't have a lot of inorganics or metals, and the all of that was within the legal level. But it was oxidized colloidal iron, iron bacteria, and hydrogen sulfide. None of that is actually super harmful to people. Might give you a tummy ache if it's a lot. So ironically, this brown, smelly water, they could have drunk all they want. As
not very appetizing though. And
nope,
like you said, if you were trying to rent a place out and they come in and turn that on,
yeah, out of
very not,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. No, exactly. That's the funny thing about water. You cannot trust it based on what you smell or taste. You cannot. That is an indicator. It's one of the tools, but boy, I'll tell you, arsenic was used to murder people back in the day for a reason. It is odorless, tasteless. It'll in amounts that'll easily kill a person. You cannot tell it's in water. And arsenic is on the periodic table of elements, and there's a reason it is in a lot of water.
Why is that?
Well, because it's naturally occurring, but it also
Hmm.
is because it's a byproduct of some factory actions. So a little bit of both. But I've tested arsenic everywhere around me. I've done tests as far away as Florida before, found arsenic there too. So, um, yeah, arsenic is in a lot of places at low levels, but higher than the health guideline.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want any? You know?
I don't want any for some people are okay with a little bit. I
So when
guess.
you say it's really easy to get your water tested, how would one go about that? Because now I want to.
Yeah, well, so you are probably on city water since you have chlorine in your water. So you're on city water, and they chlorinate that water for a good reason. It's unfortunate because a lot of times that water is as bad as pool water for real. And there's a reason you can't tell it's as bad as pool water. It's because it doesn't have quite as many byproducts as you get when you have sweating or urinating or whatever happens in a pool that then causes that trihalomethane kind of a chloramine off-gassing smell that you get from ammonia. But but chlorine, you know, how it affects people is very all over the place. But I definitely don't like any chlorine in my drinking water for sure. But yeah, the way to test is on city water, there's always going to be a test done by the city, and you can check that. You just look up the name of your city or the name of your municipality that runs your water, and then water test report. That's it. You just look that
Hmm.
up and you will find one. You can also go to a website called the Environmental Working Group's Tap Water Database. And this can be a little scary to look at. If you go to EWG Tap Water, that can be a little scary to look at. But the uh, the multiplier, they put this little thing in there that says 1,000 times the health guideline. That is excessive, and we really don't need to worry too much about that. In very few cases, that is actually beyond a limit that is very particularly unhealthy. But they do give the exact number too, and that's what I look at when I go. Um, I usually see in this area, half the time I'll see arsenic, that is almost to the legal level or halfway there, but above the health level. I will see chloroform, trihalomethanes, dibromochloroacetic acid, uh, and those are all kind of chlorine byproducts. I will see hexavalent chromium a lot. That's that Aaron Brockovich chemical. Um, I'll see, and then sometimes I'll see nitrates or I'll see radium. And every once in a while, we'll see PFAS and other forever chemicals. And that is really common to find all of those things in city water. If you then find that or find some other stuff in your water, you can identify what treatment systems would get that out of your whole house. Or if you just want to do something for one point of use for drinking water, an RO will do the trick. Or an under counter reverse osmosis right under your sink will get out all those things.
That's
Um,
what I've been thinking about doing. That's actually what I've been doing a little bit of looking into. And I have a place in my, like under my kitchen sink. I could actually place it on the basement
yeah,
under, up like above my washer and dryer, and it would be someplace rather than taking up room under my sink. Although I put some electric, like I said, I do handyman work, and not too long ago, somebody hired me to run a receptacle under their kitchen sink, like maybe for a dishwasher, that kind of
yeah,
thing. And I tapped in and I run over there, and they had this very small little unit. I mean, it
yeah.
was not small, like not even as big as a computer tower or something. Very small little thing.
Yep. And well, that RO had a pump. That's the only reason it would need power. Most reverse osmosis does not actually have to have power at all. It uses the water pressure, and then it'll have a separate tank that is a pressurized bladder tank that will cause enough pressure for you to drink out of. Uh,
Well, I think it had some kind of little monitoring thing on it. I don't even think it had a pump. I think it had some kind of little
okay,
digital
all
display
right.
thing on it that was like no power really.
I'm not really a fan of those because the actual accuracy of those, all those, that would be a TDS meter, by the way. It measures total dissolved solids, which is just sending a current through the water in order to identify contaminants, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the electrodes that come off of those currents, those electrodes get buildup on them over time, even after reverse osmosis water. And over enough time, the actual accuracy of those becomes very questionable. So you get a lot of false readings on those, and they can sometimes cause you to change things too soon or too late. If you want to actually measure your water, you should get an external TDS meter that allows you to service the little meter. They're only about this big, and you can buy them for like $20 on Amazon or at a
Yeah, I
local.
think I've had one in some point in my life for one reason or another.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, my recommendation with reverse osmosis is fairly to go old school, to not do tankless, to not do powered ones that require a pump. The way that the osmotic pressure on the membrane works is best when it has a constant pressure rather than the variable pressure. So I really don't like pumps. I don't like them doing too much pressure to force it through, which they have to do in order to be tankless. And it creates a scenario where you're going to have the first bit of water, the first full minute of water of a tankless RO will actually be pretty bad water.
Hmm.
They don't tell you that, but yeah, for the first full minute, if you have a tankless RO, you should run it for a full minute before you start drinking the water, is my opinion on that. So, yeah, I do not suggest tankless. I suggest tanked ROs, and that's the best way to go, my opinion.
Tank ones, huh? And they're relatively inexpensive too.
Yep. I mean, the ones we sell in my company are pretty expensive because they're commercial grade and they have low failure points. I think we sell ours for 750 and then the installs on top of that. But I'm doing that well aware that you can go right on Amazon and buy one for 200 bucks. And I can't promise that one won't leak on you, but the membrane will do just fine and it'll do a good job.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Absolutely. If that's the money you have, spending it on that's a good use of your money, in my opinion.
Yeah, the ones I don't know, the ones I was looking at seemed like they were a little bit higher than that. I was thinking someplace about four is
Mhm.
the ones I were looking at, and I don't
Yep.
know. Again, it's throwing darts and it's reading reviews and it's hoping that you're maybe
Yeah.
uh
Yeah,
that's one of
exactly.
the reasons why I don't have one is those kind of questions of like, why is this in $1,000 and why is this in 200 and then I'm kind of looking, okay, well, let's find something kind of in the middle. I don't want the cheapest one and I don't want the most expensive one either. So,
To demystify that for you, I have um I have something to say about reverse osmosis. There is one cartridge on an RO called the membrane. That's the only thing that matters on the whole thing.
hmm,
That's it. If you had nothing else, you would still have super clean water from that. The reason all those other filters are part of it is either to protect the RO or to do something to the water to polish it after the RO. That's it. The RO, I mean the membrane, sorry, to protect the membrane or to polish after the membrane. You the way reverse osmosis works is the water comes through and basically the water's sent to, this is an oversimplification, but basically imagine there's two rooms and you're going to send all the gunk into one room and then you're going to have good water in the other room. And the good water is going to be sent to the faucet where you drink and the bad stuff's going to be sent down the drain. That's basically how it works. It's creating a scenario where by osmosis, the bad stuff will draw to one side and not back to the other.
hmm,
In reverse though, like reverse
yeah.
osmosis.
So you actually lose some water.
Yeah, you lose water. Yeah, every time you use reverse osmosis, you lose water. Your water bill will go up if you do a whole house reverse osmosis in a noticeable way. If you
Hmm,
just do a point of use reverse osmosis, you're very unlikely to notice your water bill change much.
that's interesting too.
Yeah.
So I suppose like my kids had eczema real bad when they were little, and they kind of outgrew it.
Yeah.
I don't know that to be the case. It's an observational thing. They got older and it went away.
Yeah.
But it was a problem when they were little. And I don't, as far as I remember, we've always had soft water around here. My dad is and always was a proponent that was like not an option in our area.
Well, I got two things to say about that. Um, One is eczema is definitely not only caused by hardness. It's just definitely was causing my daughter's hardness,
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
daughter's eczema. I had another client who had rosacea, where she would get this, like, you know what rosacea is really bad on her face, and a softener completely solved her rosacea permanently. But that's not true for everyone. Uh,
Right.
the other thing though is areas where they have a lot of softeners, it increases the likelihood that you have businesses come through that don't really do a great job with their systems.
Hmm.
And it softens the water. Let's say it takes it from a 10 or a 15, but it drops it down to like a 2 or a 1 instead of going down to closer to 0. And everyone in those areas, when you have a lot of hardness, if it goes down to 2 or 1, they're happy. But my daughter's eczema happened from a 1 hardness. So I needed to do a softener that was like very high quality and would get it down to almost 0, if that makes sense. And then that's what made it go away. So
Yeah, we got a Culligan water place that's got a big name around here or whatever, you know.
yeah,
And I
Culligan.
drive on one way. I said, well, a particular place I go, there's their building, and I see it all the time.
Yeah,
Uh,
Culligan giant. Yeah.
yeah, those kind of places test your water for you, I think, don't they?
I
I'm
don't
sure they're
know.
going to try to sell you something at the same time, but
Yeah, well, they're gonna do so. That's the thing about big box stores and giant companies. They're gonna do water tests that match the product, which isn't very scientific. If they've got a product on the shelf they need to sell, they're gonna test the water that matches the product, and that's gonna make it so that whatever the results are, if even one thing shows up, they say, "I got the product for that right over here." The other way of doing it, though, the way we like to do it at our company is you just test a broad spectrum. And then after you've got all the results, you design a system that matches that.
hmm.
And the reason why that's important is sometimes you get, let's say you get arsenic, but you also get hardness and you want to fix both. Arsenic is, that is going to be a positively charged ion, right? Whereas the hardness is going to be negatively charged. So you need to have those don't work together. You can't have one type of media that's pulled out one and one type of media pulls out another. You usually do 2 separate tanks to fix that. But if you do it in one tank with a mid plate, it works. So in some cases, by doing a battery of tests, you can actually identify, can I create a setup that actually works well with this? And the other benefit to that is if you do that, you can actually get rid of some of that really slippery feeling that you can get with hardness by getting rid of the singular charge that happens with what's called cation resin, which is what pulls out hardness. By doing anion resin, the kind of stuff that might help with arsenic, it actually fixes what it kind of adjusts the electrical double bond on the water to make it so that it doesn't quite have as much of that slippery feeling. I have that in my house actually, and the water is never slippery to me. It's perfectly soft. It's kind of it's kind of great. And so water treatment people who like understand water quality, they can do that kind of stuff that big box stores don't really focus on.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, at the moment, uh, and I'm back at work there. I work for a boiler manufacturer that water quality is also a different issue, a little different perspective, but it's still. So I have some experience a little bit here and there, nothing in depth, but it's enough to make sense of some things.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
cool.
yeah, we make boilers for the power industry that are called heat recovery steam generators. They're big, giant. They're like sit on the footprint of like a football field kind of boiler. These are not the ones that are in your grandma's basement or in the hotel basement and that kind of stuff.
Whoa.
100 feet to the top deck at them and big, uh,
Wow.
14-foot diameter smoke exhaust stacks. They're not smoke. It's just
What are you
jet
what are you
engine
trying to
exhaust.
heat with that much? That
Power, making electricity.
oh yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes
So you
sense.
got a big jet engine
Yeah.
on a gas-fired power plant, you know, not a coal-fired, but a gas-fired power plant. It has a big jet engine, basically a turbine that spins and it runs on natural gas and it creates an exhaust and it spins a generator just like your belt in your car turns your alternator that makes electricity. And it used to be called simple cycle. They used to take that exhaust and just shoot it. It's about 1200 degrees. They used to just take it and shoot it straight up in the sky. Uh, the company I worked for in 1962 invented this boiler that they hook on the back of it, And that's why it's called a heat recovery. It's a waste heat recovery system that catches that hot air and turns it into steam
Yeah, yeah.
and then sends it to a steam generator that
Smart.
makes electricity. So
Yeah,
it's a
that's
cogen electricity plant. So you're getting it from the gas turbine and from the steam turbine, and they might have multiples of these units in a at a plant too, all doing that. And then the air getting shot out is like 200 degrees. And we even put big burners in it sometimes to jack up the temperature, like big giant gas grills in them to jack the temperatures way up to get that superheated steam to be able to do the stuff. And even in some places, like we've put them in New York City, they take the low pressure steam and it gets piped into the buildings and the radiators and stuff and heats buildings and stuff. So it is pretty cool. I worked there from 91 to 2019 and they laid me off. And in March of this year, they called me back and made me a really nice offer that I accepted. So I'm back again.
that's great.
Yeah, and I was
That's
just working
fantastic.
part time too, because I also started this when I got laid off. I started this handyman and woodworking business, doing it on my own.
Now you got both.
And now I have both. Yeah, I'm kind of still here. Just a couple months later, I'm still having some trouble trying to find that balance point between. I kind of like sitting at a desk again, and I like that work. It's very, although I started there as a draftsman, they called me an engineer in about 5 years and put it on my business card. So I like that complex engineering. It turns my crank. I'm enjoying going in the office again, which I wasn't necessarily sure that I would. After
Yeah,
I
totally.
actually, some months ago, I'd have told you I could never go to work for somebody again. I was wrong again. I don't mean to
That's
be wrong.
amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, back to circle around, my home stuff and then the water quality issues we have with the boilers, because the water quality going into those things can wreak havoc also for different reasons on, you're putting all that heat into that water. And if it's not good and clean, the solids in it stick to the inside of the tubes and valves and cause a lot of problem. And every minute those power plants ain't running, those electric plant owners, those people selling electricity are not happy. Uh,
Yeah, that's really cool though that you got that job back because that's like that's kind of a dream where you get to like take a step away
yeah,
for
it
a bit.
was. It really is, man.
Yeah.
Some stuff has happened to me since it was 2015 when I got sober, met my current sponsor, and a lot of really cool stuff started happening and to me, and I call them miracles. And there was some, I don't know, it seems like there's some life thing that says if you're like in alignment with yourself and in alignment with like what you ought to be doing, and a lot of us know right from wrong, and then things go pretty smooth. But like when you're playing around on the fringes and you're doing stuff that you probably know that you probably should not be doing,
Yeah.
life can get kind of rough, and that's again, like you was talking about, like how water affects different people. So does that dynamic. It will wreck one guy where one guy seems to be able to just stumble along and be able to like pull off a reasonable life while meanwhile being a drug addict, alcoholic, or womanizing or overeating or gambling or whatever they're doing. But it's my observation that usually that catches up to you sooner or later. And it caught up to me in 2014 when I was standing in front of a judge downtown and he told me I was going to go to the Indian Apartment Corrections for 6 to 20 years. And
Whoa,
I'm
whoa,
like,
whoa, whoa.
no, I don't want to do that. Too late. You already did what caused these consequences, but I didn't spend a day in jail. And that's another one of these miracles when I was straight. And they didn't care about that really. The judge even said, Dan, Mr. Reeves, we don't care if you get sober or not. We're here to deal with the crime you committed.
Yeah.
And you need to pay the consequences for what you've done. But I didn't have to. I was on home
How did that
incarceration
happen?
for a year.
How did that happen?
I'll tell you the way I think about it. I have to credit some kind of power I don't understand, man, and I don't know how else to explain it. Is that
Wow.
I got into alignment. I started doing the right thing. I worked at 12 steps. I started listening to a sponsor. I joined a home group. I started helping other people, sponsoring guys, trying to be of use to other folks. And, I was on home incarceration for almost a year. It ended up being 9 months. Uh, I was on probation for some time after that. I caught a felony, but in 2003, it was enough time it went by that I was able to get this felony expunged. And, today I have things happen to me like this part time job, which is essentially paying me full time benefits and wages for working half time and still getting to do my other thing. And again, I don't know. The only thing I can say is that alignment thing. This that, and I see this happen for other men too. I see this happen in 12 step recovery, where people have gone, I mean, trashed their lives. I actually didn't, considering that kind of prison sentence was sitting on me. I had not really trashed my life to the level that I've seen guys trash their lives and then recover from that as a result of getting sober and doing this work and doing what we do in 12 step recovery. It truly is a miracle. I mean, I got one sponsee that he wrecked the company trucks over and over again. He stole thousands of dollars from them. Uh, and he actually got hit by a train on heroin in a company pickup truck and ran from the scene. And they eventually fired him, and he went off and stumbled along for some years and had some other jobs. Run into us, got sober. At some point, it became time to make amends, and that's a piece of our process. And on his list was that guy that owned a company that he knew, who he did that he needed to go make things right with. He goes and schedules an appointment with that man, owns his stuff. What do you have anything to say to me? That's part of our amends process. Do you have anything you can? I'm open to hearing anything you got to say to me, and let them talk and let them get what off their chest what they need to. And is there anything I can do to make things right? And the guy said, "Nah, just keep on doing what you're doing." And about 6 months later, he calls him up, asking him if he wants to be the director of training at that job, making
Wow.
really good money. Now he's in charge of hiring and training and all this kind of stuff. And where else is that kind? I don't see that happening real often in the world.
Oh, but I
So
mean, that does make sense though that I mean, I don't know. The guys taking responsibility, you know, and like really putting that energy out there to be a responsible person. And I don't know, somehow people maybe pick up on it because that is really kind of a rare situation. Yeah.
yeah, when this guy called me, they laid me off, and I worked for him for 24 years as a drug addict and alcoholic, and I got sober. I worked for him for 4 years, and they laid me off. But to be honest, my heart wasn't in it anymore. There was something that had changed in me, and the corporate atmosphere and the circus, the hoops and the goofy stuff that we were doing. As the emperor had, I could see that he didn't have no clothes on anymore, and it wasn't. It was like just doesn't feel right anymore, man. I could do all this for years when I was drunk and high and all that, but not anymore. And so it was actually a blessing, and they gave me a soft landing and went away. Well, when this guy called me that I had worked with, it wasn't my boss. It was a guy who was actually knew her higher than me, and he had worked with me. He called me up. He had two things to say to me. He called me and left a message because all my unknown calls go to straight to voicemail. I don't do that. And he said, I got two things to talk to you about. Give me a call when you get a chance. And the first thing he said to me is, I wanted to let you know that I just got a year sober. That was the first thing he said to me. And then the second thing he said was, hey, would you potentially consider coming back to working for me in the aftermarket department? And so,
Wow.
and I'm pretty open. I do this podcast. So, like my anonymity, anonymity is a piece of the 12 step program. My anonymity's out the window because of this. I'm pretty open about it on Facebook and social media and stuff too.
Yeah.
I find that the closer I hold that to my heart and hide it, the less opportunity I have to help other people that need the kind of help that I have to offer. So I'm pretty open with it. And he saw this on Facebook, so he knew that, and he wanted to tell me that he was sober for a year. And so now we have that in common, and there at work, and it kind of opened the door for me coming back, right? That
That's amazing.
yeah, and those kind of little things. And you're right. When you get in alignment and you quit, like I said, when you quit doing, you own your stuff, you stand up, you say, we try not to say I'm sorry because that's kind of like shallow. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you know,
Probably said
we've
that a
been
hundred
telling her we're
times.
sorry for years,
Yeah.
right? I'm sorry, baby. I won't do it again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So we'd make amends, and we have a recipe for that when we come in. We actually own and take ownership of the things we did that was harmful, and people
Yeah.
understand that, like you said, and they respect that. People in the world respect when you own your stuff and they can see that you're a changed person too. It's not hard to pick out these people who are doing that stuff that we used to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I had I had an employee who was definitely dealing with some of that, and I have no idea how to manage it. So I just gently let them go because I have no idea how to manage that at all on my end. So
Yep, yep. You know, bigger companies and stuff will have employee assistant programs, and people will know that, you know, ultimately they're sick, is what it really is. And the
yeah.
law says that. 1971 or 72, Richard Nixon signed alcoholism into law as an illness that's get covered by insurance. So
Oh wow.
people can go to treatment, and most everybody, employer wise, is going to offer that to you and say, hey, man, go. I see you're struggling. You know, now if a guy's going to say no, I ain't, and he's not going to be receptive to any of that, then you
That was
got to
this guy.
say hit the road. Uh, but some people go, okay, hey, I'll take it, and they go through treatment and they come out and they enter into a life of recovery and they change their
Yeah.
lives and they get better. Some do, some don't,
Yeah. Wow.
and that's what my friend like now. When anybody has substance abuse issues at the company, because it's a pretty big company,
Yeah.
they send them to my friend. You know, so
Cool.
they got somebody that can be helpful to him, and he's pretty discerning, you know. So if he, you know, he gets that vibe that they're not, we say not ready yet, you haven't had enough pain yet,
Yeah.
then he can. And if somebody is receptive to receiving help, then he can offer to help them too. And I know a few times that he has personally went and picked guys up and taken them to the various treatment places around town to try to help them.
That's amazing. I feel like so much of I don't I mean I don't know what it's like for other business.
Good. You're fortunate if you don't. You're fortunate that you don't.
Yeah. Well, what I mean actually for the business part of it, I don't know what it'd be like to have the I guess the room to be able to do that because so much of my business is so tight. Like so much is like every single thing has to go well or your business could close in a few weeks, right?
Yep, yep.
That's small businesses. So
I totally get it.
that would be
You know,
uh,
working on my own, you know, I cut my hand real bad out in the shop on a wood chisel, and I'm done for a little bit. You know, that's zero income
zero income.
until I'm healed up. And I'm not running on a big fat cash flow, getting, you know, where I got an opportunity to really absorb that. So I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're not, you know, these big companies can kind of handle that. But us smaller folks, you know, according to where you're at, yeah, you take one link out of the chain, man, and it can
Yeah,
really upset the apple cart.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, that was like and that's what happens. If anyone in my team has to go as one of the owners, basically my job just doubled. Like now I'm doing my job and I'm doing that job till I hire
Yep,
somebody else. So,
yep. Until you
yeah,
can get
I
the
know.
finger in the dike on that, there, yeah, no
Yep.
doubt. So, what made you? What put you out here on a circuit looking for guys like me? Did you? A lot of times, I would call him a handler because I'm a Southern and a hillbilly, and I but people have like these. There's people out in the world that's jobs are to get you on the podcast, or this person has a book to sell, and they're out finding podcasts for this person to talk about their book. How did you fall in my lap?
I don't have a person. I there is a service I use that helps me connect to podcasts that could possibly like consider me, but mostly my reason for being on podcasts is just because I like talking about water. And I what I find is no one wants to talk about water. Like they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, you just want it to be okay,
That's
and
right.
let's not.
And I think that's because water is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And the world is Our bodies are mostly water. The world, the surface of the world is mostly water. You can't go a single day without seeing some water. Like you're always seeing water. And 98% of the water in the world is salt water. 2% that's left, only a quarter of that is actually drinkable. So that means 0.5% of all the world's water is the water we drink.
Hmm.
And the level of drinkability of that is very broad. Perfectly clean water is like 0.000000001% of all the world's water. So why water's everywhere, but the reality that so little of it is actually drinkable is hard for people to confront, I think. And so
I,
I just want people to stop guessing and stop like saying, I'm sure it's fine. And instead, just test your water. Just, or put in a catch-all like an RO, one or the other. Don't just assume that you're not drinking hexavalent chromium or nitrates or arsenic. Don't assume you're, I know that the levels are low, but like maybe you're sensitive to it. You should find out what's in your water for sure, or you should put in a high end or a good quality catch-all system like a reverse osmosis that's not gonna leak on you, and drink that water. That's my
what leaks? What
what
leaks? You seem to talk about the leaking as being a
reverse osmosis.
problem. What leaks?
Yeah, a lot of ROs. So ROs work because of pressure. You have to force pressure through the water through the membranes, and the O-rings that the things that you have to screw it on to tighten it, and then there's O-rings at the top. It is very easy for people to pinch those O-rings. It's very easy for people to not screw that in all the way. It's really easy for the one-way check valve on cheap ROs to fail, and you get some bleed back of the waste into your RO.
Mm.
So and then also you're connecting fittings. So
Yeah.
you've frequently got what is called John Guest fittings, which are push fittings that push in and then you pull and it tugs and it's supposed to catch. But
Uh-huh.
if you don't push that in far enough, that will leak like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't know the feeling of what that's like to push that in and feel that tug. And so there are just a lot of, I would say, on the do-it-yourselfers, half leak,
Mm.
half of them leak. And then I would say out of the products out there, 20% of them have failure points that are going to leak at some point.
Mm.
So when you're doing your searches for the thing and you're searching reviews, definitely search for the word leak, even if it's a high rating review, because we don't know how many of those are fake. Search for the word leak. And if you see a lot of it leaked on me or this had a leak or whatever, that would be maybe one to avoid. If there's only a few of those that use the word leak, that might be a really good way to choose your RO.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
I
that
know.
word, because
Of
leaking is one of the main reasons.
Yeah, that's why I was curious because I can totally understand the fittings and the piping and the plumbing and stuff. If you
Yeah,
don't do that, and even when you're doing, I'm pretty handy,
yeah,
and sometimes I put something together and it's a bear to, heck, even just changing a damn toilet, you can end up with like, how I can't get this thing to stop leaking, and I know what tight is, and I know what too tight is.
yeah.
Uh, and but not everybody does, because
Nope.
that's a feeling, that's a thing that you only get with experience. The same way with putting those push fittings together, there's a
Yeah,
feel with that stuff, and you know what you're dealing with. But I was more interested wanting to know like in the inner workings of it. But that makes sense. Now these screw-on filters, like refrigerators will have that screw-on
yeah.
filter inside there. But that's just a filter, right? That's nothing special.
Yeah, it's a carbon filter. It doesn't require quite as much pressure. So those are a lot less likely to have leak problems with the way they're
But
designed.
how do they do for the water? What's the really?
Carbon's going to be great for chlorine um, and some chlorine byproducts. Carbon is decent at VOC, volatile organic compounds, and forever chemicals and pharmaceuticals. but it's not great at it. If you get a higher grade carbon, like a catalyzed acid wash carbon, that is doing a much better job at removing chlorine byproducts, at removing forever chemicals and stuff like that. Um, Carbon special. Carbon is a very, very special medium.
Yeah,
Um,
they're in my little backpacking water filters. I think are primarily carbon filters, and we go up to Colorado and suck it
yeah,
out of a stream, and maybe it's good water, but we don't chance it because you're 7.5 miles up on that mountain. It's no place to get the squirts.
the product that we liked the best because we did this round of testing on all those camping products. The product we liked the best is called Grail.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Grayl.
that's right. And that one has a really good does a really good job of handling water. It's also a little mini reverse osmosis though.
Hmm.
You're basically, filling the cup and then you press down on it, and through pressure, it's cleaning the water. Um, and it's doing it through a membrane. So that's maybe why it's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was one of by because we did a full spectrum testing on a bunch of these, and that one was the best one.
Well, that's good to know too,
Yeah,
because I got buddies
carbon's
that do
cool.
that.
This much carbon, like a single gram of carbon, has more as much surface area as 3 tennis courts. Uh, yeah, so that's why it's such a good filter because there's like tiny micro holes all throughout the thing, little nano like sub-micron holes. And so as the water's flowing through, it's entering those holes and it's getting caught on the sidewall, which is called adsorption. It's getting caught on the sidewall of the carbon. So carbon can technically remove anything, but it's just not guaranteed to remove anything. It's only really rated for removing certain things, and it's best at removing chlorine and some chlorine byproducts, which is why they put it on fridge filters. Suddenly, your chlorinated city water is not chlorinated anymore for your drinking, and you're like, "Wow, this tastes great." And that's why Brita became the multi-million-dollar company it did, because carbon gets rid of tastes and smells like crazy. So,
Yeah. Now, if I'm like, so what I do, and there's a Myers. You know what a Myers is? Grocery store.
oh yeah, yeah, I've heard of that.
They're more, they got clothes and they got other stuff and
Yeah,
other fish food and various kinds of stuff. But it's one of them multi stores, kind of like a Walmart or Super Walmart. I don't know if you
right.
got those out there, but they have a water filter station that refills. So
Hmm.
like for like, I don't know, 39 cents a gallon, I think it is, maybe 29, 39 cents a gallon. And I take those things and it says 5 stage something or other. And it does say reverse osmosis on it.
Great.
Uh, and it's also has always a service sticker on it too that's like dated within a month. It'll have
Yeah.
it'll have a sticker on it that says and I assume they're testing it. And sometimes it's down. You go there and you got jugs of water, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it failed to test or if it just ain't working or what.
Yeah.
Uh, would you think there'd be? I mean, because now I'm like, I should test their water.
Yeah. The
You think
thing
it's
is,
safe?
test it if you like. If they're servicing that, it's going to be fine.
I'm assuming that all that's on the level. I can't imagine they would be doing that and the sticker would be getting changed on a regular basis and
You can never
you could
account
never tell.
you can never account for underpaying an employee and what
Yeah,
that might do to a business. You definitely want to pay your employees well. And as long as they're doing that, that employee is probably coming by. He's changing the pre-filters, he's changing the membrane, he's running a cycle through and doing a dump. I'm sure he's doing all that and that it's just fine. I can't know that for sure. I
right.
will
Yeah,
say
yeah.
though, you are going to be drinking microplastics doing that.
Because of the plastic jugs.
For sure, yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. So if you want, and that can cause some inflammation. So one thing that's part of the reason having an at-home system is nice because you got it right there. You're not drinking that microplastic. So
Yeah. I've got a couple of the big glass ones, and I think I have three of the big glass ones in the basement.
that's
They are
great.
heavy and hard to
Yeah,
handle.
they're
And
awful,
I
but
actually, I keep some spare water in them, I keep them filled up and I empty
Yeah,
them once in a while in case they're like my emergency water supply in case the water goes out or something like that. I've got a little bit of water set back and I
that's
leave
great.
them in there and they're kind of a dark room and all that, so they don't got light shining in them. But yeah, the microplastics is another thing, and you were talking about that and this stuff. I mean, and also wouldn't if you could potentially be get some of these chemicals, and you say you may not be sensitive to them, but maybe you're not sensitive to them for a period of time. But this stuff will build up in you. I've been in this house since 1972.
Yeah,
If Drinking this water for all that time. Now I actually grew up. I bought my mom and dad's house from them later on, so there was a window when I went out and got married and had kids, and then bought this back again. But my point still, you live in a place and that stuff will build up in you too, without just being. You don't know that you're just sensitive to it. And a lot of podcasts are out there talking about the food supply, right? I don't hear much talking about the water supply.
that's right. Um, and the water supply truly is not as big a problem as the food supply. Although I will say the food supply problem is overblown a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I understand it is a problem in our society, but some of that is because of market needs. And if we didn't have that, there would be plenty of food for everyone. But the water supply is is what it is. The clean water supply, that can be a problem in some areas, but that has more to do with infrastructure than water availability.
Hmm.
The ocean is going to keep giving us water via the air. We're going to keep having the hydrologic cycle. The water is going to keep coming down from the sky. Um, and even when if whatever anyone thinks about global warming, it happens in that situation too. So we have a water situation. I have not heard a single reputable source say that access to any type of water will be going away at some point. But it is true that cleaning water can get worse and worse, and infrastructure can make it harder and harder. Um,
Because even if you have one of these filters like you're talking about in my house, there's still maintenance and replace parts and
right.
stuff like that, that filters and things, these canisters you're talking about that on a periodic basis need to be replaced and things like that, right?
Yep. Yeah. So RO, reverse osmosis, definitely requires an infrastructure. If we want to go like, apocalypse discussion, then we definitely need to move the discussion to like uh boreholes or solar stills and running water through gradient sediment filtration and carbon in order to clean your water. That's like the level where we're at now. We collect water, we distill it, and then we distill it, or we collect water in the sun in a capture basin. Like we dig a hole, put plants down there, put a cup, and put plastic or something so that it condensates and drips in the cup. That's one way. Or you collect water and then you run it through gravel, then sand, then carbon, and drink that water. And that's going to be pretty darn good water. It's not foolproof, but in a survival situation, that's great. So
Yeah, because the
that's,
Ohio River runs down through here, and I think that's where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a bit of our water comes from there. I
yeah,
think we pump it out of that river, and it's a big river. I
big
got it.
enough rivers. Yeah.
I'm not, I was on that prepper side of things and got myself wound up in that some years ago. But I have a place out in the country that I think about that if the SHTF happens, uh, you know, that I have some hope that I would be able to make it there. And we have a pond and we have spring water that comes out of the ground there too. And I've always thought about testing that water and seeing what it does and potentially being prepared to be able to drink either out of the pond or
Yeah.
from one of the springs we actually have in our deed the water rights to it.
Oh,
It's
cool.
not on our property, it's actually on Hoosier National Forest property uphill from us. So we could actually gravity drain it,
That's good.
gravity feed it down to us if we needed
Oh
to.
yeah, you'd be
And have
fine
thought
then.
about doing that because we haul water today. We fill up 5 gallon jugs here at home and
So
we haul it down there.
how high is it? How high up is it?
Probably just an elevation. It's probably not all that much, but it's probably 25, 30. It might be
Yeah.
50 feet in elevation above where we actually have the cabin.
Are there animals above it?
Oh yeah, not like grazing,
Yeah,
but there's deer and turkey
deer and
and
stuff.
other
Yeah.
wild animals above it.
Yeah, so then it becomes a be careful with that. I mean,
I mean,
I
you can filter it through your camping stuff to
uh,
get that out of there to make it safe enough to drink a little bit of it and that kind of
yeah,
stuff. But the
or remember
volume would be different.
iodine or chlorine drops.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That. Yep.
To make it safe enough to keep you alive,
Yeah,
uh,
without the bacteria. Yep.
without getting sick and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I had a client who was they had it's a Crystal Mountain Resort. Call me up. They're basically a ski resort, but they're really high in the mountain as ski resorts are, right? And they get their water actually from a river with very little filtration because where they're drawing from is so high up, there's almost probably no animals above. They are still required to chlorinate that water because they serve people. But honestly, for the most part, unless you got really unlucky, high enough water that you grab high enough is going to be pretty good. Um,
That's what when we go to Colorado and hike up on that mountain, we're very close up to where when you go just another couple 100 feet up,
yeah,
then you're going back down again. It's the Continental Divide runs through there. You are way up there. Actually, I can't get it through my head how water is coming out of the ground at the top of the hill. Like, what's pumping it out of there? I can kind of make some sense of it when it's coming out down lower in the hills from it soaking through and everything. But it's like, how does that water come from the top of that mountain?
and,
But it does, and that's what these guys say. It's probably clean enough
yeah,
that you wouldn't have an issue. But do you want to take that chance way up there?
yeah,
Because get
yeah,
sick, you're screwed.
yep. It is very likely safe. But yeah, you can't say 100% even at that point. Yep.
Yeah, because you don't know what else is happening around there. Something, some animals died and is soaking its stuff down in the ground, or somebody even killed something and left the remains there. And there are, elk cross that all the time.
Yeah,
So there's some level of animal that actually is wandering around up there.
yeah, absolutely can be too. Yeah, I mean, you can get, I mean, I don't know where it depends on where you are, but freaking mountain goats, dead birds. I mean,
Yep.
anything that can climb can climb higher than
Dead
you.
mice.
Yeah, mice. That's right,
Yeah, yeah,
rodents.
yeah. Anything that's doing that could put something bad in it, and you just cannot tell. You just don't know.
Die right.
Even to the point that, this mouse got old and then it was to come down to take a drink, and that was its last minute, and it
That's
just
right.
keeled over, and there you got him rotting in that water puddle. So yeah, you got to be safe about it, and it's interesting. So I've enjoyed talking to you on it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. I like talking to people, and I like learning things that
Yeah,
expand my
this
knowledge
is
a little
great.
bit about stuff. Helps me, whether if it helped anybody else or not, I don't know, but I know that people are interested in this kind of stuff because it's interesting. I know I've run into a lot of clients that talk to me about that, and I quickly say, I don't know, that's not, you need to talk to somebody else. I don't, that's not my expertise. I'm pretty quick to claim when I don't know anything, but I get asked about it a lot about people improving their water.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, you got a lot of resources now just from this talk,
Yeah, I do.
that a lot of people don't even know. Like, just there's a lot of water reports already out there, and
Yeah,
then
I'm looking. I got the New Albany, Indiana 2024 year sampling stuff. I think that's must be the newest. I didn't see anything any newer. And disinfection products, disinfectants, other related substances. This whole chart of different stuff that telling me what kind of stuff: chloride, iron, manganese, pH, sulfate.
how much is the manganese?
So some of this stuff is like, what's SMCL?
Yeah, I don't remember what SMCO stands
It
for
probably
actually.
says here, it says level found, and it says 0.02
Okay, there you go. 0.02 is definitely
parts per
higher.
million.
Oh, SMCO, secondary maximum contaminant level. Huh. Yeah, so that just means it's a secondary standard. They are arguing about manganese becoming a primary standard actually at the EPA right now.
Hmm.
Manganese can actually cause some people to have Parkinson's-like symptoms. Um, it affects your
Hmm.
nervous systems, and 0.02 is definitely higher than I would want. So I'm yeah, I think it's probably good that you're getting water from the store.
It's
From
got
what'd you say,
high
Myers?
core. Yeah, and like I said, it says something. It says reverse. I'm gonna go look at it closer next time I'm there and read what it actually is saying. It's
Yeah.
telling me it's doing.
Five
But I
stages.
know it has the word reverse osmosis on it, and I'm almost positive it says something about some 5 stage filtration.
Yeah.
Again, I've got no idea what that really means, what those 5 stages are, or any of
It's
that.
gonna
But
be sediment, carbon, maybe UV, then membrane, and then post carbon.
yeah, there used to be a little, when you turned it on, this little light would come on and shine through the water, but I
Mm.
don't think that's working anymore. I don't remember that coming on anymore.
Was it like a purple light?
Yep, yep. Look like a UV light, you know. I got
Yeah.
a UV flashlight for certain kinds of things. Like there's little chemicals and stuff that you can that harden under the UV light, you know, like when you're
Yep.
patching up a chipped granite countertop or
Yeah.
there's various things. So I've got a little UV and it does look like that. Plus you can see blood and other stuff with that UV.
That's right.
Hardness 182.
Yeah, it's high.
What did you say? Did you actually talk about getting down to zero?
Yeah, so 182 is in a different form. You have to multiply that by 17 in order to get the standard that I was talking about before. I mean, divide by 17. Um, so let me see what that is. It's 10 hardness. It's 10 or 11 hardness compared to
Oh,
that level I was talking about before.
okay.
Um, yeah,
I'm
that
not trying to get from 182 to zero. I'm more like trying to get from 10 to zero.
yeah, exactly.
Sodium is 21.2. Boy, there's some bunch of stuff. Unregulated contaminant monitoring. Bromochloriacetic
That's
acid.
that's a chlorine byproduct.
There's two of those that are very close to one another, but they've got a couple. One of them has dichloride in it. One,
Dibromochloric acid.
yeah. So I had to, it's like over there, it's byproduct of drinking water.
Yep.
There's another manganese, different manganese, 1.5.
Where
I
is it
wonder what the
magnesium?
difference. This says manganese, and I saw manganese. It's under the unregulated portion.
Huh,
And up
and
here
it's
it
one
says
point.
manganese at another spot.
They
It's
might draw from two different sources.
level found. Water in the distribution system. Up there it says collected at the treatment plant. I don't know what the difference in that and that is necessarily either.
Well, just that they test at the distribution plant and get one rating, and then as it flows through the pipes, they're getting a different rating.
Mm, man, that's a big report.
Yep.
20 pages.
Yep. You would want to go to EWG tap water and compare them.
Okay.
Environmental Working Group tap water, and then just compare.
I'm gonna get that. Did you say E?
EWG, you can type into Google EWG tap water.
Tap water database, environmental working group.
Yep.
What's
And
in
there
your
will be a
drinking
pop-up
water?
that pops up that's kind of annoying. Just find the button that says continue or close it out. You don't have to enter your email. And after you do that, you'll be able to type in your zip code.
My bill comes from the Indiana American Water. There's Sellersburg Water, Silver Creek Water, Edwardsville Water, but I know that my bill comes
Scroll
from
down.
the, scroll down more.
Does it not show you one of yours as an option?
Yeah, the Indiana American Water.
Okay, it's there.
It's
Okay.
showing me four of them,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really say my area, but I know that's who
Yep.
my bill comes from. That's who I
Then
pay.
choose that one. Click on that one.
Yeah, it
You'll
says,
go to another page.
yeah, it doesn't say New Albany, but it says Jeffersonville, and that's the town right next to us. Legal does not necessarily equal safe.
That's right.
Hmm. Haloacetic acids.
You probably can't share your screen, but yeah,
I can't from here. 147 times.
that's the thing I was talking about before about trying not to be too worried about that. The multiplier thing is a little bit of a scare tactic, but you wanna do you want to put the zip in the tap and I'll look at the same thing, or tell me
Say again.
you zip the zip code?
47150.
Indiana American Water. That's the
Uh-huh.
one you said.
Yep, that's who I pay my bill to.
Okay. Wow, this is really interesting water. If you click on other detected, you'll find more, but yeah, these are some pretty heavy duty chlorine byproducts.
Dioxane, fluoride. I know that's a whole thing too.
Fluoride, yeah.
Excuse me, about the fluoride in the water and whether if we really need to be doing that or not.
Yep. Fluoride's a funny thing. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yes, and this utility, those numbers are the ones that you're looking at.
yeah, those are the ones. So you see it says there manganese 2 parts per billion. That matches what you found on that report because your report was in parts per million.
Mm-hmm.
So you just move the decimal over 3 places and that's what was in your report. Um, so yeah, the tell you the truth, this water pretty easily solved by a carbon filter.
Hmm.
Does the trick in your case. Um, so I think but to get rid of the hardness, that'd be a softener.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
I
have a
mean,
softener. I just have to
RO would
assume it's
be,
doing what it's doing. How do you know if your if your softener's doing without testing it, right? Without testing the
yeah,
water.
exactly.
You
All
could be
right.
sitting down there doing nothing. Well, I appreciate it. I've learned a lot, and I got some things to look up. Another thing to be worried about, right? That's like what I really need. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth looking at, because I mean, if you're sitting around and I'm doing this stuff where I'm trying to eat as good as I can, and I'm trying to do this other stuff. Oh yeah, my son, his friends play Magic: The Gathering at my house on Thursday nights, and he's good. He's texted me, "Let me know when you're done." I
All right.
usually don't run this late. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like I said, my 87-year-old father lives with me. My 55-year-old self and my 21-year-old son all live here together. And like I tell people, you can walk through the front door and tell this place hasn't had a feminine touch in a long time, and that's okay with me.
Yeah. Fun.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Is there any kind of stuff you would like me to put on the show notes or anything like that? If you do, you probably ought to email me and let me know. I'm a little bit ahead, so yours will, I don't know. This podcast is going to come out in the next week or two.
Okay. Yeah, I
So,
mean, I'm not super worried about it.
yep,
My
if you would like it, I can do it. If you're not worried about it, then
yeah, my name is
you,
fine. You can put Pure Water Northwest if you like, but mostly my name and just That's it. I don't really need nothing else. I'm mostly doing this because it's fun to talk about it.
Yeah, that's mostly why I do it too. It's because it's fun.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know,
right.
something happened and I have a good time doing it. And I get to meet a lot of cool people that I wouldn't meet had I not be sitting here doing this,
That's exactly right. That's how I feel about it
And
too.
all
So,
over the world, I've got people from Australia, Austria, New Zealand, Thailand,
Nigeria.
I mean, Nigeria,
Yeah,
all over the place, so it's really cool to be able to do this. And like I said, so it's been great talking to you. Love you,
you too.
Bob, and it was fun. Have a good rest of your evening, and
You too, man.
I will shoot you a text when these things come out so you have the links.
All right. Have a good
All
one.
right, man. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.